Botanicus is a nice-looking, competitive worker placement game, largely multiplayer solo, in which you will be creating a garden. You will move your gardener around your personal play area, and you will be adding plants there, water them to make them grow, things like that. But before we get to the player's personal areas, we take a look at the main board that goes in the middle of the table. The most important part is this action track here that we will use to select actions, and it's worker placement, so that means that the actions taken by others will influence what's available to you and also the cost of certain actions. Here you have three tracks that we haven't found to be all that necessary. I feel like this could be resolved differently. Meaning you may have an action that gives you 2 steps on this track. Then you move your wheelbarrow, which is cute, on that track. You unlock that action, you perform it, but then you move the wheelbarrow back at the beginning. There are times that you can get multiple actions in a turn, and so keeping track within a turn where your shovel or your wheelbarrow or your magical potion, no, it's a bag of money, but think of it as a magical potion. So if you get multiple steps on the same track in a single turn, then it makes sense that. But in most cases, if I get an action that gives me 3 steps on the shovel track, I'll say, okay, I'm taking that action. And that's the idea. Most of the cases, you're naturally going to use that. Now, we're going to talk about the player's personal area, which is this one. Each player has a garden. Now, the display that you see is double-sided. There is a variant, an expert variant, with more rules, more things going on, the possibility of moving 2 gardeners around, different layouts for the gardens, as opposed to in the basic game, all the gardens look exactly the same. So your garden will move around and spend a coin each time the gardener wants to move to an adjacent space, going from footprint to footprint and only moving orthogonally because jumping over flower beds is rude. So, you also have tasks, which are ways to score points if you plant certain flowers in certain combinations. We should talk about the flowers, actually. So you have 4 types of flowers indicated by the level. Level 1, the smallest, and level 2, level 3, and level 4. You may have actions that immediately give you big plants, like a level 2, booyah, and a level 3 right there, boom. Or you may plant smaller plants and then simply spend actions to grow them. So if I spend the watering action, I can turn a smaller plant into a plant of the next level. If I water the 1, becomes a 2. If I water the 2, becomes a 3, and so on. And so forth. Usually you will be able to plant and interact only with the spaces 4 or 3 spaces adjacent to your gardener, which is why the gardener must move. Now, here there are tasks that are a source of victory points. They have the shape of arrows pointing to specific rows, and they indicate the conditions that you need to fulfill to score points in that row. If, for example, I plant 3 level 1 plants in that row that the arrow points to, I score 7 victory points. Now you have some tasks already printed on the board, and at the beginning of the game you will receive a random number of other tasks, and you can choose how you want to match them with the various arrows, with the various rows, but once the game starts, they're locked. And so if this is the beginning of the game, now that task will always be associated with that row for this game. Once you complete the printed task, then you take the one represented by a tile and you place it there. Now that becomes available. Suppose that later I water 2 of the plants in that row enough to now fulfill that condition, 2 level 3 plants and a level 1 plant. I complete that task, I score that many points, and I flip the marker to indicate that I really put that row to good use. Another major source of points will be if you complete an entire row. Each row that you fill up with plants will score you points. Each column that you complete will score you points. I got confused because in the advanced version you may also score rows. Each column that you complete gives you points. How many? The single highest level plant in that column will tell you. So for example, you have a level 3, so I look at this diagram here, and a full column with a level 3 plant, and it gives me 9 points. It doesn't matter how many plants of that level are there. All that matters is the single highest. And so if you have a full column with a level 4 plant in it, that's pretty sweet, because that's 15 points. You will also perform actions, score points on the task, score points from other things, including just selecting actions that give you points, plus some points at the end of the game, and the highest score wins the game at the end. Now, back to the main board where we have this track here of actions divided into columns. Some columns only have printed actions on them. Some other columns have 2 actions. One is printed and one is given by tokens that are placed there randomly at the beginning of the game. We go through the entire track twice, so once all the action tokens of the players reach the end, we go back there. Also, the second time around, we flip these markers to different actions, so there is variety there. And then we go through the track another time until everybody takes an action or maybe more in each column. Then we have, which is weird, I'm not sure what the point is, a mini turn in which everybody takes a single action and then the game is over. Now, you have your action token here that will allow you to select your next action. Simply put, when all players are in the same column, then the player on top of the column in the highest spot there will get to choose their next action. In case there is a pile, then the player on top of the pile. In this situation, green goes first, then yellow, then red, then blue. And green will simply go and jump to a space in the next column, resolving the action or actions that are available. Green goes here, they collect 3 coins, and they plant a level 1 plant next to their gardener. And then yellow goes, they go here, they plant a level 1 plant, and they get to use an animal. Animal tokens will give you points in the basic game. They also unlock different kinds of bonuses in the advanced game. If you select an action that already has somebody there, 2 things. First, you need to pay 3 coins to do so, and second, you only get that action that is visible. In this case, red going there only gets the animal token, doesn't get the level 1 plant and the animal token. And that's the general idea. So there's this constant trade-off between, going first, which is awesome, but of course you go first, you have more options, but then maybe you choose an action that slows you down. And if you go later, there's a nice negative feedback loop here, because say if I go there, it cost me 3 coins, which is not good. Yellow didn't have to pay them, but now I am on top. And so I will go before yellow. So you're trading resources for priority there. Well, this is pretty much the general idea. There are a couple of other details here and there, such as, this action here, say, these actions that allow you to interact with those tracks is how you do most of the actions, really. Again, if I get the action of getting 1 step on the shovel track, then I can do that. You can also spend 3 coins to gain extra steps. If you don't use all of the steps indicated by your action, suppose blue gets the 3 wheelbarrow but only wants to use 2, then the points that you don't spend become victory points. You can cash them in that way, they're not wasted. And so, again, that's the idea. By using those actions, you advance on these tracks, you perform the corresponding action, and then you go back at the beginning. If you are able to, and some tracks have multiple paths, which will give you different advantages, but you may have to spend money. So on the shovel track, I can go here and unlock these actions for free. You only unlock the action that you land on, not the one in between. So I can get these free actions, planting a lot of stuff, or spending 2 coins and going on that other path, unlocking different actions and or advancing on the track faster. So that's the general idea. Oh, I didn't mention one quick thing, which is what happens at the beginning of your turn. Beginning of your turn, that's when you can spend coins to move your gardener, 1 coin per step. You may also, if you have them, play these cards here. These cards are special cards. You collect them by selecting certain actions. They all work the same. You either discard it to collect the 3 coins, or you spend 2 coins and you perform the action in the middle. So, players go in the invariable turn order, moving the gardener and or playing a card in either order but not mandatory, then selecting the action for or actions for next round, and so on and so forth until the end of the game, and the player with the most points wins the game. I like this game. It is fun. It's a nice, fun, simple worker placement game with 2 interesting puzzles going on at the same time. One is the selection of actions, of course, because, some actions are very nice, but they cost me money. Other actions, if I take them now, don't cost me anything, but are they good enough? Should I take an action that's not super interesting now so that I'm reserving a better spot for the following turn? And since the track is not the same, but there is 1 column, that means 1 turn that has 1 action, the following column, therefore turn, has 2 actions, then 2 to 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. Maybe again taking a silly or not super awesome action for a turn that only has 1 action, reserving a good spot for the turn that has 2. That could be interesting. And then, of course, you have the other puzzle, which is the puzzle on your board, and that is just super fun. I like the spatial challenges that come from there, from managing the position of your gardener, trying to figure out how to chain those tasks so that I complete them now, and then by watering plants or adding plants later, then I can score the same row again with the second task associated with it. Then I can complete a column and score points at the end. The various levels of decision, from shorter to longer to strategic, they are just very well integrated with one another. They flow from and into each other very well and very nicely. Precisely because there's a puzzle element and the economy is pretty tight. If your garden is out of position, if you don't get something that you really needed, you may start falling behind. But precisely because of this, the game may have a little bit of downtime when you play with new players. Maybe you don't play with 4 players when all 4 are new, which of course is precisely what I did, but that's just me. So you can play with fewer players. Once players become familiar with the idea, then it's no problem whatsoever. And the game is vastly multiplayer solo, so you're not going to have really anything to do during other players' turns. Because the puzzle is so tight that, of course, other people's actions will influence what is available to you and how much actions cost, but it's unlikely and unwise that people will go out of their way just to, well, I'm taking this action, but it's good for me, and also I notice that Sony is trying to do something, therefore I take that away from. You're going too far. It's hard enough to handle and read your tableau and your options, to also figure out what other people are trying to do on their tableau and how how you can get in that, how you can interfere with that game. Which is why, since it's vastly multiplayer, I was surprised that the game doesn't come with a solitaire option, so I decided to try one myself, and it turned out to be very simple. My thinking was the only way the people are affecting is how they play their tokens, but it looks kind of random to me how they place their action tokens, because again, I'm not reading their strategy. So all I did, I took a 4-sided die, well, one of those 12-sided dice with only numbers from 1 to 4. It rolls better than the ugly pyramid. So for a 4-sided die, I placed 3 players' tokens there. I took my turn as normal, and then I roll dice to see where the other players go. It takes like less than 10 seconds to basically resolve the other players' actions, which is all that will affect you where they place those tokens. And it worked like a charm. It was always my turn, and I had exactly the same challenges as when I was playing multiplayer, which is sometimes the actions are expensive, sometimes the actions are not available. And even though they are unreadable bots, I still want to say, well, 2 turns from now, I really want to go first. I don't want the randomness to place certain tokens before me, so I'm still going to take an action which is high on the scale and not very good, so blah, blah, blah. I had the same exact considerations of resources, opportunity, and priority as I had in multiplayer. So I highly recommend, if you want to try this game solo, you give this super simple variant a try. It worked very well. Then you also have the expert variant, which adds a lot of complexity, different boards, different effects for the animals, multiple gardeners, unique victory conditions at the end based on cards. I didn't think that it added quite as much to make up for the extra steps that you have to take. If you have played the basic version so many times that you need to rejuvenate the game, sure, give it a try. I personally very much like the elegance and simplicity of the original game. It's a nice little clean puzzle with a tight economy, interesting decisions, and it turns out you can also play solitaire. The fact that the components look very good, everything is well produced, doesn't hurt either. Also, there are no plastic baggies. The game comes with these cardboard boxes to store the components. Everything looks nice, feels nice, and the game plays nice. So, I like Botanicus.